You don't know how much you know about something until you have to write 50,000 words about it. 92% pastors' kids fall away from the faith. At some points, your faith has to become your own. And at 16, I ran into that wall called borrowing someone else's faith or secondhand revelation of Jesus. And I had to meet the man himself. If you can't be present here, nothing you say will make any impact there. That's where the term mix comes from. That God has mixed all these things in me. And, the book, it's embracing complexity while discovering your God-led identity. That really the only person that knows how that fits together is the one that designed me.
Welcome to the Good News District with Sam Muyaka, where we discuss leadership insight, next generation perspective, and cultural discussion through a biblical lens. Hey, what's up? This is Sam, and welcome back to the Good News Podcast. And today I have a good friend of mine. I think I can say a good friend. I'm confident saying that. But I had a great friend of mine who I've asked to come in here. He is a youth pastor at Bethany Church. And the author of this book is called Mix, which I've got to say, it's a really big book.
Yeah?
That means you put in some work.
Oh, man.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without taking up any more time, welcome my friend, Eli. Eli, what's up?
What's up, everybody? Man, it's an honor to be here. We are friends.
We are friends.
And we're good friends.
And we're good friends.
Yes.
And we're going to great friends.
We're getting to great friends.
That's what
I think this
about.
is the beginning of a great friendship.
Yes.
Come on,
yes,
man.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Dude, what's up? How you been?
Dude, I've been fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing me on and giving a shout out to the book. And yes, it was a lot of
I can tell. Like when pastor release books and it's like, the tiny books and then like the pages and the fonts is like 26 on it and something like that. And, and the first 3 pages are like what another pastor wrote about them.
Yeah.
And then the scriptures. So really, they only wrote about 2 pages,
Well, bro, I can tell you I wrote the whole book. I was actually challenged by my publisher to write the whole thing.
Okay.
And so obviously I don't know what the writing process is. When I actually received the opportunity to write this book off of a talk I did. I did like a TED Talk.
Okay.
And someone from a publishing house, Thomas Nelson, was there and really resonated with the book, came up to me afterwards and said, that talk is a book. Here's my card. And literally, that's how I got into writing. So I'm a speaker, right? And so I'm like, okay, let's do the thing, get into the process. And then they tell me, well, writing a book is about 50 to 60,000 words is what we want you to write. And so I don't know or comprehend how much that actually is.
Yeah.
But I will say this, you don't know how much you know about something until you have to write 50,000 words about it. Because, bro, I got to 5,000 and I said, I think I ran out of everything. Every word in my head that I've ever thought is on paper already. But it was a great journey, man.
Dude, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And I definitely want to get into this book a little bit later on. And you know what I'm going to do, Ellie? I'm actually going to do a giveaway, too.
Go for it.
I want to do a giveaway to 2 people. And this is mine, but I'm going to order 2 more books. And then whoever wins, we're going to give him this book. But here's what I want to start. Just tell me a little bit about you, where you're from, how you grew up, how you got to this space that you're in today.
Wow. Well, I grew up, I'm 4th generation minister.
Okay.
So and that's on my dad's side. So my great grandfather, he got saved. He got saved by Pentecostal missionaries in northern Mexico, in Nogales. And he got saved there. I believe they had 8 children. The oldest of the 8 is my grandfather, who also gave his life to the Lord, got into ministry, was an evangelist, did a lot of work in Latin America, bro. The wildest stories in like Central America, almost getting martyred, fighting witch doctors in the mountains. Bro, if there's someone, and he's 95. By the way, shout out to my grandpa and my grandmother. They celebrated 70 years of marriage yesterday. And so faithful in ministry. I mean, he's a legend of legends. Then he had my father, who has now been a local church pastor for 25 years. So the church that I grew up in, it was a small immigrant church. And then on my mother's side, my grandfather was an altar boy in Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And he got radically changed by another Pentecostal missionary. Shout out to the Pentecostals, man.
They're out here putting in work.
They were putting in work. He actually so he was gonna go and just have like a professional career, not ministry at all.
Sure.
But the Lord touched him in a way where he got sick. He tried to go to university, and the Lord literally made him physically ill trying to go with like his books and stuff. And eventually he had met this missionary that invited him to church. Well, he gets invited to the church, and the missionary ends up moving back to the United States and gives him this little church. And my grandfather at the time, I think he was late teens, early 20s, ended up taking the church, and the church like exploded to like one of the most prominent churches in DR. So he moved to the States with my mom, planted a church in Jersey and several others in Northeast. And so, yeah, man, that's like, I'm as churchy as it comes, I guess. I don't know.
You was raised church.
That was,
like, church from the front to the back.
Bro, and
everything in between.
Immigrant church.
Yes.
It's a different, a whole
bro,
different ball game.
It's different. When you, like, I kind of have the same story with my family, raised in a Christian home. My dad is a pastor.
Yeah.
And we traveled really my whole life. My dad was planting churches after churches.
Wow.
And we was responsible to learn the language quickly so we can translate for my dad. And dude, I've got to, and I always tell this story. And so my brother and I did a podcast, which you won't see that podcast. We have to go and record another one. But we did a podcast, and we talked about the difference between us growing up and here. And nothing was wrong with here, by the way. Like, nothing is wrong with America.
Yeah.
That's not what this podcast is
well,
about.
America has some things, but...
Well, you're right. In this space that I'm talking about, I'm not bashing. However, there is a clear difference.
Yes. Yeah.
The way you were raised when you were raised in ministry in another world than this world. There's a difference, and and I think it speaks a lot more to I would say the desperation is different.
Yeah.
The desperation is different. So,
I agree with that.
And I'm sure we can kind of get into that a little later. But so now you are youth pastor, next gen pastor at Bethany Church.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What's some of the ministry that you are involved in?
Yeah, man. I talk about that whole lineage. First and foremost, to give honor to all the shoulders that I get to stand on, right?
Absolutely.
And then simultaneously, I read a stat, and I mean, this is a dated stat. Probably 15 years ago, I saw this stat. I don't know if it's different. Maybe it is, but it's like that 92% of pastors' kids fall away from the faith.
Wow.
That it's like
92.
It's like a little over 9 out of 10 ministers, pastors' kids end up leaving the faith. And
did they give some reasons?
I don't remember what the reasons were. I do think that it has a lot to do with how the high percentage of pastors that are falling out of ministry and just the disorder in the home and just a lot of what ministry potentially brings. And you grew up in ministry.
For sure.
And so I consider myself blessed
For sure.
To have parents that didn't just love God, but loved the family.
For sure.
And loved me and my sisters, and we're all in church. We're
So
all
big.
in ministry.
So
It
big.
is possible. I serve in a church now, Bethany.
Yeah.
They're in their third generation of pastors in the Stockstill family.
How incredible is that?
That is 60 years. 60 years of faithfulness. And so, I do share the story that everyone has, where at some points your faith has to become your own.
So
It can't be your parents. It can't
good.
be someone else's, a mentor's faith. It can't be your grandmother's faith. It's got to be your faith. You got to own that. And at 16, I ran into that wall called borrowing someone else's faith or secondhand revelation of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I had to meet the man himself.
Hand-me down revelation.
Oh, bro. I'm telling you, man. And it didn't fit.
Yeah.
It was like Saul's armor.
Come on, let's go.
Okay,
Let's go.
We're off to the races already.
Hey, you know what's funny about that? I'm actually writing a leadership course just on that. So
Really?
I'm heading to Africa, and I'm talking about how,
Come on.
because the space that I'm in, and I'm sure you feel the same way,
Yeah.
is the space that I'm in is I have to cultivate a certain culture
Right.
For the Church International Next Gen Ministries. Now, we have different cultures within that. We have one in, Santa Maria, Louisiana. We have one in Africa. And what I want everyone to understand is just because you see Santa Maria do it this way, as long as you keep the mission and the vision the same, do it the way that you were called to do it.
Yes.
Because if we're not careful, we can be wearing what Saul wore and thinking, hey, that's how we're going to win the battle as well. No, God is setting you up for a different way to be able to win. So it's funny you say that, because I'm kind of working on the same thing that I'm going to share with the campuses over there to understand that, listen, you have a different culture, and God is calling you to do something in a different way. As long as we're running the same mission, I think we're fine to do some other things in a different way.
Well, and I think that's the whole message of my book, and even my whole journey leading up to even me being in Louisiana has been a bit of a journey where God has kind of put me in spaces and places where I felt like the odd one out in different ways, but not completely. Like, there were parts of me that fit in, but not all the way. And I've never kind of had that spot where I was like, ooh, I perfectly fit in here.
Correct.
Like, my dad is from Mexico. My mom is from Dominican Republic. I was born in California, but I was raised in Texas. Like, you start
You're
stacking
just messed up.
Bro, I'm confused as I'll get out. And then you fast forward, I ended up marrying a Palestinian American.
Oh my God.
And so now our kids are the whole United Nations. And all of us are born in different states. I was born in Cali. My wife was born in Ohio. My daughter's born in Texas. My son is born in Florida. My wife is pregnant now. Gonna have a baby in Louisiana. We are all, great football states, by the way. Someone's getting a scholarship. And so,
we pray.
Yeah, come on. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Hey.
But, I think it's great that we're even talking about this whole multicultural reality.
For sure.
Because we're the first generation in the world that is one generation in a sense, because we're all technologically put together. Whether we like it or not, we're connected to everybody. And so the way even that I got here was just a series of trusting God with the next step. And this is not a theologian, but as Steve Jobs would say, the dots only make sense looking backwards. He did a great talk at Stanford. I think it was one of his last talks, talking about how just the randomness of life, which you and I know as the divine steps that are ordered by God. And man, to make a long story short, it was from state to state, university to university, saying yes to the Lord, working the places that I have, and has now led me to this moment where I'm serving in a church that is so diverse, and not the buzzword diverse. I mean, not just skin color diverse.
Correct,
and this.
Correct.
Like, we're talking about diversity in age, diversity in socioeconomic backgrounds, diversity even in their background of Christianity, Catholicism, atheism, like the way people are coming to faith. And so I'll say, man, my journey that has led me here, people that I've served, guys like Samuel Rodriguez with the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference for the last 7 years, nationally serving the Latino church that put me on a global stage.
A legend.
Bro, here, this is so random, and I just want to say this because to tell you guys how the Lord can just do one thing and the next day it just changes everything.
Correct.
The way I started working for him and my father kind of had a relationship in the way of like not just a friendship, but my dad's church had grown to the point where, like, immigrant churches, it's rare that they'll grow past 1,000, and my dad's church did.
Yeah.
And so, Reverend Sam, he got wind of it, and they connected in a way back in the early 2000s. And when I was in college, I started a movement called One Body, and it was a unity movement. He caught wind of that, and so when I graduated, I got a phone call from him, and he said, hey, we believe that the Latino church in America is in need of a next-gen movement. Would you want to spearhead that? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, praise God.
Let me pray about it.
Yes. Amen. Yes. And so I said yes to him. And what ended up happening was, like, I got an email like the next day. And it was from one of the guys that was a part of the organization, says, hey, Reverend Sam wants to extend an invitation to you. You need to be in Dubai in like 2 weeks. And I said, For what?
mean-
And he said, and I said, yes, but also for what?
For what? Correct. I mean, I can be there tomorrow, but like for what?
But
though?
I'm also newly married.
Yeah, correct,
So I have to, I got to make sure we're okay. I make sure. And so, that connected me with a group called Empower 21. And really the mission of Empower 21, it's the world's largest relational network for Christian movements, denominations, organizations. It's about 700 million strong. And the mission is to see the whole world evangelized by Pentecost 2033.
Wow.
So in a decade, if
Wow.
all of Christianity got together and went after the Great Commission, that we would see in 10 years the greatest move to the point where every single person on planet Earth would have gotten a chance to experience the invitation.
Yeah, that's good.
And so with that, I'm sure you guys could see a trend is I keep getting put into places that bring people together.
Come on.
Right? Even the Hispanic organization I'm a part of, it's a U.S. based Hispanic organization. So it's expanded to Latin America, but my role is reconciling the second, first, third generation Latinos in the United States to the Great Commission. And one thing that I do believe is a battle for the Latino population is that there is a battle of a scarcity mindset that we don't have enough or we're not good enough, and we'll leave that to the white man or we'll leave that to the American.
Yeah.
And my whole experience from my grandparents moving here to plant churches is that we were not called to be borrowers here.
That's good.
We're called to lend our faith.
That's good.
And lend a blessing. Like there's a blessing coming from the immigrant populations. And I think that far exceeds Latinos, but that's kind of been in the realm I'm in. And so yeah, man, that's been my journey, been going around and eventually got the invitation to serve the next generation here at Bethany Church as they expand globally. Kind of one of the big cornerstones of why I got the invitation is God has a call in my life to spread his gospel globally, and that's the vision of this house. It's been the vision of this house, and we're ready for the next stage.
Come on, man.
So,
what
yeah.
a story. What a story.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Dude, I can only imagine just all the stuff that God has, taught you, in your journey to get here. And one thing that I love about you is, because I keep up with what Bethany's doing, what Bold Youth is doing.
Yeah.
And I told Meshach this, like, man, when I see you dance with the kids and the students, I'm going like, that's what a youth pastor should be. And talk to me about that, really, how you got into a space to where you're like, I'm going to be me in every area that I'm in. Because I think often sometimes they try to act like a pastor where I'm not going to dance, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to get in, And but what I see when I see you is you don't care who's watching, and you in this space where you can be in Dubai today and tomorrow you're dancing with every student at your local church.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about that, about those spaces and how you're able to just be yourself.
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. I think number one is I was that student. Like I don't know, I've never allowed myself to graduate from the memories of being a student that needed God.
It's good.
And having a tangible youth pastor.
It's good.
And my youth pastor was very different than I was, but my youth pastor was so different than me, but so consistently himself.
It's good.
And I didn't need him to be something else. I just needed him to be authentic and honest. And not every youth pastor will share my personality, but every youth pastor can be present, and every youth pastor can try.
So good.
I think and here's the thing, what I've noticed with students is like, you don't have to be great at what they love. Like if they love dance, you don't have to be a great dancer. If they love, video games, you don't have to be great at video games, but they appreciate when you try. Like, for example, you and I both speak other languages.
Sure.
I'll never get mad at somebody for trying to speak the language that I speak.
For sure.
Because there's something endearing about that. Even if they don't have the right accent or they don't even have the right vocabulary, the fact that they're trying to speak.
And you're creating a space where that's 100%. Okay.
Yes, you're creating a space that's okay, and you're also communicating that you care, that you're willing to bridge the gap.
So good.
Like you're not demanding they come to your side. You're saying, I'm gonna, and isn't that so Jesus?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's the whole ethos of Jesus is that he left somewhere to come to us. And the greatest example of pastoring is the shepherd that leaves the 99 for the one.
Yeah.
And whether maybe we call it this, but me just being with them, trying to do my best to be among them.
Yeah.
If everyone's having a good time, that I'm in the middle of them having a good time. Like if they're having conversations, I'm jumping in the middle of the conversation. They're playing ball, I'm going to play ball with them. But that's incarnational, as we would call it. You're embodying what it means to reach people. Like Jesus embodied himself in flesh to reach us that are flesh. And it's the same way with youth. You don't have to be perfect at what they love, but if you can embody enthusiasm about where they are in hopes to reach them, as Paul says, I'll be all things to all people in order to win them over. I think that's where that stems from, man, because I experienced that firsthand. But yeah, to any youth pastors that's like, man, I don't know if I want to put myself out there. You putting yourself out there is the greatest demonstration that you care you love them.
So good.
Than all your fancy words and trying to conform them into yourself, which is, once again, we get back to Saul's armor, right? Thank God Saul let him go after David said, hey, man, this doesn't fit. Can I just, and he's like, fine, do what you need to. In a way, Saul didn't do many things, right? But in a way, he let him go. At least he let him go. Right? And so, that's what I would say. I would say try.
Good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And, you in all these different spaces where obviously that's where this book come from, where you feel like, hey, listen, I don't feel like I am trying to stick in. I'm okay with being standing out. One of the things that I think you do well with that is having a worldview mission globally, but also you have a local responsibility.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, how are you able? I don't really believe in balance, right?
Yeah.
That's just me. It's impossible to have balance. I just think that I believe in priority, right?
Yeah.
So, what is your priority looking like when you go? Okay, cool. Like I have to be here, but also I've got a local responsibility with students who call me their pastor.
Yeah.
What is that? Kind of balancing, if you will. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree with you on the balance deal, because Jesus lived the most unbalanced life. Yeah, we talk about, all these books of like, well, how do you balance life out? And I agree with you. I think life is way more about rhythms. Like what season are you in? And different seasons dictate different rhythms. And I think when we think about the word that I use, didn't invent it, but the word is global. How can you be global and local at the same time?
Wait, who come up with that?
I heard it first from Rob Hoskins of One Hope Ministries. Terry Parkman was another person that I heard it from. And so just want to give credit where credit is due. I don't know if they'll divvy that off to somebody else.
I heard a great man.
The next podcast I say it's going to be me.
Yeah. So, I came up with
like
this.
I always say.
So one of my quotes that I came up with, you can exit if you want to.
Exactly. That's the title of my next book, Local. But yeah, so how can you be a global citizen? And I think even right now, everyone doesn't have really a choice.
Yeah.
Social media is the world. The world's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we're having to teach students to be global. But I think you can almost take a lesson from that, which is if you can't be present here, nothing you say will make any impact there.
Come on, that's good.
Nothing, right? And so
That's
I think
good.
the way that I use the analogy is like the deeper your roots go, the farther your branches can extend. And the worst place for a tree to be is shallow roots but long branches.
So
you
good.
give one little wind, and that whole thing is falling over. And so if I were to say like what priority I would give, I would always give local more priority.
It's good.
And allow, it's like from local,
Then.
that should launch you, right? And what I love, Acts 1, Jesus talks about that. He's like first in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, then, to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And there's that thing of the epicenter where it's like, hey, start here. Like, you'll get here, but you got to start here. It's right. He told them, wait in Jerusalem. He didn't split. It was 500 people on the Mount of Ascension.
So good.
He could have split them up and said, some of you wait here, some of you wait in Samaria, so that when this thing pops up, it could pop off everywhere. But there was something about, you guys need to be together. Like, you need to be in one place. You need to start here. And from here, you'll be scattered to all of the places of the world. It's a redemption of the Tower of Babel, right? Where they tried to build something to go up, and Jesus is trying to build something to go out.
So
right?
good.
But it cannot go out until it's built. Yeah, it's built here first. The foundation and the roots have to be solid. And so, whenever I go around the world, the authority that I carry is what I'm doing here.
That's good.
That's the only thing that gives weight to
what you're doing there.
Yeah, because people don't want to hear theory.
Yeah.
People want to hear testimonies.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us, even us doing podcasts, even us talking about this on a podcast.
For sure.
Because how many podcasts do you listen to of a lot of people just talking about a lot of theories or how things should be or what if, and instead of like hearing what is happening.
For sure.
What's the experience?
Yeah.
What are the testimonies happening right now?
Here's what's going on right now.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, I want to give you 7 ways to, to grow your church. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, like you don't have a church.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And the truth is,
Yeah.
the Revelation says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb, that's Jesus' work, and the word of their testimony. And that's our work.
Yeah.
He can't say our testimony for us.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
so he already spilled his blood, and then the Great Commission is testify.
It's good.
Go out there, right? Like make disciples of all nations, and teach them and baptize them and all those things. The entryway is the blood, but our testimony of this word is true, that God baptized me and I'm dead to my flesh, but now I've resurrected in the spirit. Like all of those things are testimonies. And I think a lot of global ministry, like guys want to start traveling and guys want to go to the globe. But the truth is, do you have a testimony to take with you? If you don't have something, like you're gonna go to Africa.
For sure.
And what you're taking to Africa is the testimonies of God, what God is doing.
It's done. And he's doing.
And it done,
Yes.
doing. And then when you
Will
go
do.
there, oh man. And then you come back and guess what you do again? From what happened in Africa, you bring it back here. And so that's the global component.
That's good.
Whenever I come back, I want to
it.
bring another testimony.
I love it.
For what God is doing.
I love it. Yeah, I'm always kind of when I hear those gurus, hey, as a youth pastor, this is what you should do, and I'm like, yeah, like your last youth pastor jobs in the last 5 months, it's like, like let me see what the fruit of what you're doing, and that's good.
Yeah, no fruit if you don't have any root.
Oh,
so.
Can we clip that? that is Xable. Is that tweetable? Xable?
That is Xable.
Xable.
Yeah,
that is Xable.
I'm trying to get behind the new rebrand.
That is Xable. I've got to say that is one of the worst rebrand I've ever seen. In my life.
Here's my thought. I think they're gonna go back.
I'm
calling my shot now.
You have to, because there's no it doesn't even sound right. Xable from Tweetable. I just think that
I almost didn't know what you were saying until you said Tweetable, and I said, X.
At some point, I think people just have too much money, and they goes, hey, you know what? Like, I feel like doing this. And Eli was like, I feel like doing this, and that was a bad idea. Like, I know you got the money, but that was a terrible idea.
Man.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Let's get into this book a little bit.
Yeah.
Give me just kind of give me an overview of what this book really about. Give me some struggles too, because obviously what we see is success. We see the finished product. Give me some struggles. I'm sure there was moments where you was like, man, do I really want to go through with this? Or maybe there was some insecurity about opinions of people who've written books and #1 sellers, and what would they think about it? Or was there any resistance?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I will say, in writing the book, it really actually was birthed out of the craziness of 2020. That's when I started writing, and the reason that I started writing was, my mother, she's from Dominican Republic, as I said, she's Latina in ethnicity, Hispanic, but she's a black woman.
Yeah.
Right. She's African in ancestry. So I'm like West African.
Come on.
I think I'm 40% Nigerian.
That's more than 5%. You're good.
That's a lot percent. I didn't expect.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm in to all my Nigerian brothers and sisters. But obviously, my mother's culture is Dominican culture.
Sure.
Even though ancestry tells us it's Nigeria.
Sure.
Right. And so, when 2020 rolled around, Black Lives Matter happened. It's like, well. Black lives, it encompassed a lot of us, right?
For sure.
Africans, African Americans, Caribbean.
Yeah.
You have Afro Latinos.
Yeah.
All of us kind of got lumped in, and after a couple of instances where I'm like trying to voice my opinions about, like, man, all the things that BLM was talking about, I experienced too.
Correct.
Like, I've been on the hood of my car.
Correct.
I've been followed at Walmart. I've been like everything you can think about. Every conversation a black family has had with their black son, I've had with my mom.
Correct.
I've had all those. Don't run in our neighborhood was an actual conversation.
Yep.
And then what ended up happening to the young man that got shot running in that neighborhood? My mom texted me immediately. She said, "Remember when I would sit you down when you were 12 years old?" And so I experienced all of that happening. But I grew up 2 hours from the border in San Antonio, Texas, and my dad is Mexican.
Yeah.
Right. And so I started voicing my opinions about, like, man, there does need to be reformation. There needs to be justice. There needs to be all those things. And then I had friends of mine on my feeds telling me, man, you're really loud about this, but what about all those kids in cages on the border? It's like there's like 10,000 kids in cages, and you haven't posted anything about justice on the border. And I was like, okay, well, I'll post about that. And so I posted about justice on the border, with the kids in cages. Then all my black friends jumped on me and said, hey, bro, this is not the time. Like, you need to
wrong timing.
Get in line. This is diluting, distracting.
Sure.
There was a lot of terms hurled my way. And so then I was conflicted because I was like, there's a part of me that gets it and there's a part of me that does not get it. Right. And I'm thinking, like, wait, what do you mean turn? And like, how do I reconcile taking turns with this? This is all happening all at once, and nothing gets to get turned off. And I'm both of these things. So it's not also like, oh, I'm a black person that just decided to love Mexicans.
For sure. No,
I'm half Mexican.
Yes.
Like, my dad is Mexican from Mexico, right? Like, and so, that's really what the book was birthed from. It was birthed from the response people started giving back. And then I got confused and I started writing about the confusion. And one of my posts was, I feel homeless in this conversation. And it eventually evolved into one of the chapters that I called Visitor's Pass, that I felt like I couldn't make a home anywhere, but I could visit conversations. So the black community would let me in, but I couldn't live there. Or the Mexican community could let me in, but I couldn't stay there, right? Like, the Americans will let me in, but I'll always be like a second-gen Latino. Like, you're American, but you're Mexican-American, Latino-American, Dominican-American. And I finally felt like this is not healthy for me, my soul. I feel lost. I feel empty. I feel conflicted, confused, all the traits that are anti-fruit of the Spirit. I didn't feel any of that. And so I just began to write and talking about how do you navigate a world that you don't fit in? Wow. And it eventually evolved into this book called Mixed, where I had no choice. It's like blending something. It's not, some people try to do it's kind of like a fruit salad or a salad. No, I think it's more like you get a salad and you put it in a blender and you blend it. Now try to unblend it. You can't unblend it. And I tried to percentage myself. Well, I'm 50% this, 30% this. But the reality was, it was so blended together, there was no end or start. Like, it wasn't like, oh, at this percentage, I start being this other thing.
This other thing, yeah. It's like, that's who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I'm called to be a whole person.
Yeah.
And so that's where the term mix comes from, that God has mixed all these things in me. And, the book, it's embracing complexity while discovering your God-led identity. And I went through all this heritage finding and, kind of unpacking where I came from and realizing when I had all the sums together, I didn't know how they fit.
So good.
And I came to the end and I realized, as pretty much, I think it would be no dud to tell you that really the only person that knows how that fits together is the one that designed me. Like, he's the only one, he knows how they fit.
Come on.
And so my book ended up being that I was finding Jesus. I found Jesus at the end.
So good.
And, you know, and if I was saying this in 2020, I'd be, you know, getting stoned by everyone to say, what do you mean Jesus is the answer? It's like, and I'm not saying that as an oversimplified fact. I'm saying that this is the first social justice movement that wasn't led by the church. And really, I don't know how much fruit even came from it. If we're being honest, we're 4 years out. We're 4 years out, right? And we know our history pretty well in the social justice movement. Every social justice movement in the Americas, going all the way to De Las Casas back in Hispaniola in the 1500s, 1511, almost 100 years before slave ships got to the mainland America. They got to Hispaniola, where my mom is from, Dominican Republic. And the Spanish paused slavery to have a council in Spain on the ethics and theology around slavery. That's where social justice started in the Americas. So we've had a long, rich history of the Dominican friars speaking about the sanctity of life and the image of God in slaves and indigenous people. Right. And so we finally, something happened and we put social before spiritual. And we lost the understanding that spiritual instruction precedes social institution.
My God.
And so we tried to put social institution before spiritual instruction. And then we found out that it's on sinking sand. Because it's a bunch of different little parts, and that shifted every 2 weeks. It felt like culture kept shifting. We couldn't get our footing on the thing, and we all ended up hurt, confused. Some of us lost. Some of us damaged. Some of us are still trying to crawl back. And that's
a lot of questions,
bro. That's what the book.
Unanswered questions.
A lot of unanswered questions, and a lot of strained relationships that are to this day. For me, I have several relationships that. Are still in process, and some not even in process of being restored because of that time period. But the book was birthed out of all of that, wrestling through it. And so, yeah, man, that's the genesis right there. Talk about a turbulent genesis, right? Goodness. Talk about long labor pains.
Man, and listen, and just hearing from you speak, I can hear the pain that you had when you was writing this book, and obviously. You decided that, listen, I'm going to have all this that's inside of me, and I want to bring a solution to someone who can possibly bring themselves to the answer that I brought myself into. Yeah, it's easy for me to give you an advice that, you know what, like, hey, Jesus is the answer.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
How do I get there?
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, show me the steps, because for someone, it's not as easy as it was for you to be able to kind of navigate that. And I'm not saying it was easy, but it was a process, and other people can process the way that other people can. Yeah. So you wrote this book, obviously, to help people. I want to hear about some feedbacks. Maybe there's someone who read that book and write, hey, that's what I was thinking. I just couldn't put it to words. Yeah. Like, that was what's in my heart. I just didn't know how to express it or explain it. Like, tell me some of those maybe feedbacks that you've gotten from people who had some, thoughts about this book.
Yeah, man. And praise God, I'll say this. I have not heard or met someone that has read the book that has had bad feedback. Okay. And perhaps maybe that'll come. I will say, I mean, the early stages and my comments online about what the material was. Yeah, for sure. Social media, I've had people push back for different reasons. But really what the feedback that I keep getting is that I give language to something people are feeling. And language is so difficult to acquire. It takes so long. And I mean, we've already talked about language a little bit, but you and I both knowing different languages, you learn a language through exposure. You have to be immersed in it. And and the language of identity is only found through the painful journey of life.
Come on.
Like, I'll give you an example. Let's use the Bible. You and I are pastors, so we use the Bible. I look at the example of Jacob. He wrestles with God, and God pops his hip out of his socket. Yeah. And what happens? He gives him a new name. He gives him the name Israel. He gives him a new identity. And I think that people are not willing to wrestle with God to find out who they truly are.
Wow.
They're not willing to go to him. And this whole movement of self-discovery is just a sham.
Yeah.
It's a fake. It's not
Self-destruction.
real. Yeah, it's not real. You want to know why you're so confused? It's because you didn't make yourself. You don't understand, like, and that's what all the therapies and the counselings are great, but when you don't understand that all of this is the Romans 8:28, that he makes it all work together, then you'll just take it as offense that something happened to you, and you won't say, like Joseph said to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God has turned for good. And that's the redemptive nature of this book. That's why finding Jesus is so important.
Come on.
That's why he was the cornerstone of this entire conversation in the first place. And so the feedback that I was getting was the way that I had woven the story throughout it was all Jesus centric, because he was the string that held it all together. He was there the whole time. And, and I think that at the end, and this is why I'm writing a second book, which, praise God, I got the opportunity to. So I am.
Is that is that an exclusive?
This is an exclusive. I don't think I've okay. I don't think I've announced it.
We'll take that.
But so this book is a book of self-discovery. That's what lures people into this book. It's like, okay, because there was a bit of like, okay, what am I really?
Yeah.
And the painful journey of like, what am I? And finding that what I was not enough. Like, I was disappointed. I got to the end and I was like, oh, I thought I would feel more empowered, or I thought I would feel more enriched. And in the reality, I was more confused, right? And so it was a book on self-discovery that I get at the end, that the true trick of the thing was self-denial. And so that's what the second book is.
Good.
The second book is a journey of what does healthy self-denial look like? Where I stop trying to discover who I am and the potential of who I can be, and instead I look for who he is and the potential that can come from me completely surrendered to him.
Wow.
I heard it said by a pastor one time is that God can't fill you with life if you're still alive. And a lot of my wrestlings were with a flesh that was still alive. And I believe that this generation needs to learn that Romans 12, 2, we quote a lot, right? That don't conform to the patterns of this world, but we don't quote Romans 12:1 enough. That says, now present your bodies as a living sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the reality that the beginning of living is death. And that we can't share in his resurrection until we share in his death, and we share in his crucifixion.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of the vein I've been in for the last, several months, is the toxicity of the self-help movement, where, and you probably experienced this at church. It's like people don't want to serve anymore.
No.
People burnt out. I've never seen so many burnt out people before. And then I get down to the core of what they're burnt out about. And really, a lot of what people are burnt out of is they're spending a lot of energy trying to feel good and find places to do that, and not realizing that it's like drinking salt water.
Yeah.
Like it's the feeling of water, but it's dehydrating you. They're not resting well.
No.
They're scrolling, or they're in toxic friendships, or they're doing things that they feel like will fulfill them. Right?
Good.
It's the whole deception of, well, I'll rest if I go and I sit for a while.
Correct.
Sitting is not rest. As a matter of fact, rest is active.
Very much.
There is,
very much. So I've just, I just did a podcast and I was talking about resting, and I say, let's not get confused resting with napping and sleeping. Like,
let's
that is
not
great.
Confuse rest with laziness.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, this we turned to a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
I've got, and I think our obsession with resting, it's really just a distraction for a lazy generation.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Because what I found often rest is not me just sitting down doing nothing.
Yeah.
For me, resting is when I'm active, when I am being creative, when I am in solitude and God is downloading something and I am creating something and He's showing me a vision of something that He wants me to do. Resting for me looks like cutting the grass and I've got my headphones on and I'm worshiping. That is resting for me, right? So it's like me taking an extra nap actually just allows me to be more lazy in my body, like get out of rhythm. So and we're skipping a lot because there's a lot of conversation here. And I want to get into it. But I want to get into this thing about resting and work ethic because I think because we have a generation that's coming up that is lazy, we're trying to be so radical on resting because our parents and the church before us, they never really took the time to be healthy. And I think what we've done is we've confused rest for healthy, right? There is a way where you can work and have a great work ethic and be healthy. And do it in a way that pleases God. And you have your priority together with family and church and work. And you're still in a healthy way. But man, we were created to work. The Bible says He worked for 6 days and then He rested. Right? Like there have to be work that has to be done to enjoy the rest. And He rested for 1 day, but He worked for 6 days, right? So can you talk to it? Let's get into some of that conversation. What's your thoughts?
Oh, bro. Remember I told you, you guys don't know this, before this podcast I said, man, I have a lot of thoughts lately. This is where I have all my thoughts.
Let's go.
You know, I think that when we attempt to understand rest, I think number one, I don't know why the Sabbath is the sin you were willing to commit and the commandment we're willing to ignore. Like, it's in the top 10. You know what I mean? God said a lot in the Bible, but you know, the Sabbath is a top 10, one of those things. And I think a lot of it has to do with us bowing our knee to the culture that tells us, oh, while everyone's sleeping, you got to be grinding. It's that grind culture. I think Gen Z is getting a little over that. Which I'm grateful for. I'm starting to notice that a little bit. I think millennials still have it so bad, which is like the young adult ministry is completely different. I do think there's a hesitancy from Gen Z because they're seeing a bunch of millennials burning to the ground because they don't know the rhythm of rest. But I think it's exactly that. There's a rhythm of rest. It's you know, and I would even piggyback on what you said about the 6 and the 1. I think what was interesting, and maybe this is really deep. I don't know if this is deep. Maybe this is an observation, but what I noticed about God, he did the 6 days. Then on the 6th day he creates Adam. And then the 7th day he rests. And so all Adam knows for the first 24 hours of his existence is rest.
Let's go.
And then, all right, now it's time.
Time to work.
You know, and I think that there is something that I think maybe people are afraid of when it comes to rest is like there's a bit of I'm not gonna work to rest. I'm gonna work from rest. I'm gonna work from a place of health. I'm not gonna work to health. And I think that if you don't get that right, you can't work for health. You got to work from health. And so, what needs to be pruned out of your life? What things need to fall off? What are some tactics? I mean, there's some great here. I'm gonna give a tip for everyone. This might set some people free because of what you just said. One thing that I learned from a pastor is, and this may be a psychological term, but I heard it from a pastor. Maybe it is in the sciences. But if you work with your head, meaning you do a lot of thought work, you rest with your hands. So that's why you rest a lot when you mow the grass. Because you're active, because most of the work that you do is thought work. You're leading meetings, you're writing things down, you're scheming a lot. But, you know, playing sports or going outside or walking, and then vice versa. You know, my friends that are in construction, they do a bunch of construction, but they come back, puzzles, gaming, all these different intellectual things. But, you know, the Lord really designed us in such a way that rest is not an amount of sleep per se, which I think you should. I think you should have right around of rest. But what are you doing in that 24 hours of a Sabbath? that is enriching your spirit,
Yes.
that is causing your soul to really seek God and to really find him. And I think that it's rhythmic in that way. There's a testimony, many of you might know, Robert Morris from Gateway Church.
Yes, sir.
And he gives this testimony in one of his sermons, and he says that he had a moment where he was kind of freaking out, where he was about to go, and I think he was going to preach somewhere, and he opened up his drawer, and he only saw one pair of boxers and one pair of socks. And he looks down, and he has like a nervous breakdown, and he calls one of his elders, and the elders are like, dude, you need to take a sabbatical. Like, he was having a nervous breakdown. You need to take a sabbatical. And so he ends up taking a sabbatical indefinitely, I guess, because he gets to like, he did 51 days, and he got to the 52nd day, and it's on the 52nd day, he gets this big breakthrough, like a huge breakthrough. Think about that, 52 days.
Wow.
Like how hard he must have been running. And he says that he gets to that 52nd day, and he asks the Lord, why 52 days? And he says, how many weeks are in a year? Wow. And he says, that's how many Sabbaths you owe me.
Wow.
That's how much you owe me. Wow. This is my grace. And I think for all of us, myself, yourself, people out here grinding, man, it is not, let me get all this work done and then rest. You will never accomplish all the work that the Lord has for you if you don't rest. I have another analogy. There's a story, and it escapes me where I read it from, but it's a story of these two men that were lumberjacks, and they had a competition. I don't know if you've ever heard this story before. And the competition was who could chop down the most trees. Okay. And it was like, I think they were given like 24 hours to chop down as many trees as they could. Okay. And it was equal axe, and go for it. You had a young guy and being a big dude, and he was going against this seasoned guy to cut down trees. And so they're ready, set, go. And they're chopping. The young guy is just going ballistic. I mean, he's blasting through trees. And he's listening, and the other guy, he's chopping down, and then he was stopping. And then he's chopping down, stopping. Yeah. And so, like, all of a sudden, he's like, yo, I'm going to crush this dude. They finally get to the end, and by the end, the young man's hands are just blistered, sword. He's raw, everything. I mean, he's the blade of the axe is like warped almost because he's been hitting these trees just relentlessly after 24 hours. They go to the totals and they announce the winner. And the winner ended up being the older man. And the older man had multiple more trees chopped than him. And when the younger lumberjack goes over to him and asks him, I heard you stopping. And he says, yeah, I would chop this many trees down, and I would go and I would sit and I would sharpen my axe.
Come on.
I would sharpen my axe. And so I would take a break, and I would get up and I would be just as effective as I was in the beginning every time I got back up.
So good.
The young man instead went trying to go through, and he warped the head of his axe to the point that it used to take him 5 swings to knock a tree down. It was taking him 50 swings to knock a tree down.
10 times the energy.
Exactly. And so for a lot of us, we fear rest for the Lord to sharpen us. Like, we don't understand that that's what's actually happening.
So good.
That God is sharpening us. He's keeping us clear, because the reality is God didn't call you to be busy. He called you to be effective. And we live in an American culture that promotes and honors busy people, when the reality is there are no prizes for busy people. There's no harvest for busy people. There's only harvest for effective people.
Absolutely.
Like, are you actually throwing seed in good ground? Are you actually stewarding well? Are you actually stewarding wisely? And so I believe rest in many ways is that analogy where you sit down and you take a break, even though you hear someone, they're hitting those trees, and you're like, but God, he's hitting that tree. He keeps hitting that tree. And he's like, stay in the place of sharpening. We're going to take a break. Then you're going to get up. Then you're going to take a break. You're going to take a break. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that, like Paul says, the prize is not given to the swift. It's given to the ones that finish. You want to finish. You want to finish. And so.
Finish strong.
Yeah, you want to finish strong.
So do you think that speaks a lot to what's happening with this generation when it comes to self-help, where because we can't sit still for a certain amount of time, we just keep putting things in our body, things in our head, because we're looking for something to cope with. You think that speaks to this generation or maybe the millennials a little bit?
Yeah. I think that we're over-medicated, overstimulated, thinking that if we get more, we'll be more.
Yeah.
But the truth is you won't be all you can be if you're not with him.
That's
And
good.
you can't be with him if you're doing something else.
That's good.
You know, and that's, I mean, that's relationship with God 101. You know, it's like God wants to be with you more than he wants you to do things for him.
That's good.
That's the Matthew 25. That's why people are going to get before the throne room and say, well, I did all of this in your name, and I did the miracles, and I served, and I did all this. And he says, depart from me, I never knew you.
Yeah.
That's I sat down and I was with him. And I did the Mary thing and not the Martha thing. I sat down because I had a chance to sit at the feet of Jesus and really gain understanding of what matters. And when you don't have, like, think about this. If you don't know what matters and you don't know purpose and you don't know what you need, then you'll spend a lot of time guessing and a lot of effort doing a lot of nothing.
So good.
Doing a lot of nothing just to look up and like, I'm tired and I did nothing. You know, I did nothing.
Did all this work, didn't accomplish anything.
Didn't you or accomplish something that doesn't do anything for your soul? like I'll tell you this. I blew up in 2020. I blew up on TikTok. 300,000 followers on TikTok. That did nothing for me.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, for anyone on this side, like that wants to blow up on social media, I'll tell you, as someone that is on the other side of that,
Yeah.
it means nothing. It's just more work. It's more busyness. It's more, oh my gosh, I need to get 500,000 because this other guy has, oh man, and if I get 500,000, that other dude hit 1 million. It's all just, I need more if I want to chase that carrot.
Patrick Beverly, just run around doing nothing. Just tricking
Patrick
people.
Beverly catching strays.
Just tricking people.
This podcast.
I dropped 20 on him. I dropped 40 on him, but he's running around out of breath, just doing nothing.
Man, it's a lot of that, bro. Absolutely.
Oh man. Okay. Oh, that was great, dude. Oh my gosh, I'm loving this conversation. Like, this is awesome, dude. All right, let's.
After you, if there's anything that you like to finish out with,
let's give it a few advice.
Dating advice. No, I'm just kidding. No.
To some of you,
I'm
pastors,
not the best at that, by the way. My
dating
track record
advice?
is it's the worst.
I might start with that. You ready? We good? All right. Well, let's go. So listen. So I want to ask you a few questions as we close this thing out.
Go for it.
To give some advice. Number one, we're going to talk about dating.
Thanks. We come about die to yourself. That's my advice. Die to yourself.
I mean, we can skip it. We don't have to. But you.
Let's do it. Yeah, we can do it.
How long you been married?
I've been married. It's gonna be 7 years this year.
I think you've got some valid advice.
And I got 2 kids and 1 on the way.
1 on the way. Okay.
Yeah.
And listen, so you posted. Okay. Can I tell you about the post? Can I tell you about the post?
Yeah,
So he posted that he has a kid on the way, and
Yeah.
I DM him. I say, "Is this the reason why you haven't been texting me back?"
Bro,
You was busy.
you know this
got
life. You know this life.
I got you. Praying and stuff like that. You know, things
That's
like that.
parent to parent grace.
I got you. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm with you. But listen, give me, if you had to give one advice dating, whether it is a student, whether it is someone who in a space of being single, or and then also really honestly, quickly, if you can just speak to, I do think as much as we talk about the singleness in the church, and we, this waiting and, just wait on your Boaz, and I think there's something to be said about not giving up.
Yeah,
right.
that's good.
So let's talk about to the singleness about, hey, listen, like, don't give up, don't give in. Like, what would you say to that?
I would say that one of the biggest lies you could believe is that someone will complete you.
Talk about it.
And if someone can complete you, they can destroy you.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that that's that's where a lot of people get into. They get into an idolatry of the opposite sex, or same sex, if we keep it a buck, right? Like all this gender confusion and sexuality where we find our identity in our sexual desires. And that if we can land the plane with our sexual desires in some form or fashion, that we would be complete in something, whether it's with another person or in and of ourselves. And the truth is that only Christ brings completion.
Yeah.
Like he only brings completion, and that all of our desires should be swallowed up in a desire for him. And so, the realities of like, oh, well, I don't know. I just feel so lonely right now. I'm gonna be completely honest with everyone on this podcast. You can be married and be lonely.
Gosh, that's real.
Man,
that's real.
I'm telling you that, like, and these all feel like, and I want you guys to hear me. These are not cop outs.
Yeah.
Because I want you to even think about, let's put it to money. Like, well, maybe if I made more money, right, and I have a bigger house, and bigger house, trophy wife, and let me tell you something about a bigger house and a trophy wife. All that's going to happen in that house is you're going to have enough bedrooms for you to sleep on one side of the house and her to sleep on the other side.
Wow.
Like you just have bigger room to have more separation. Wow. Like none of those things actually culminate into a healthy relationship. So that's why singleness you'll never get back. Because so enjoy it. So enjoy the fact that you can be with God. I mean, even Paul is like, man, to be honest, I tell y'all not to get married because I get to be with Christ. Like there is such a sweet season in getting to know him for him and then bringing that fullness to your spouse. Bringing a complete person to your spouse. And then, and until you're there, where the Lord, like you really are wrapped up, and I'm not talking about perfection, but when I'm talking about satisfaction.
Come on.
Satisfaction in God is not perfection. It's being satisfied in his perfection and saying he's enough.
Yeah.
And when Christ becomes enough for you, you stop being thirsty and chasing after every type of girl, every type of guy, and all those things. Because the last thing you want to do is get in a relationship while you're chasing. This is the best advice I've ever heard from a youth pastor was run as fast as you can after Jesus and look to your left and to your right to see who's keeping up.
Wow.
That girl.
Wow.
You run after God and run as fast as you can. And as you're running, you look to your left. If you see a young lady that's keeping pace with you, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
You don't want to try to drag someone to love God like you. We don't want to do like missionary dating where you go out and say, I'll save them. I'll save. Don't worry. I'm going to evangelize. Nah, you're being shady, right? Sure. Like I think that's the best dating advice I can give to anyone. Like that's you need to find wholeness in Christ, satisfaction in him. And when you're in the throes of ministry and loving God, you'll find someone in the labor with you, and that's a person. That's the second most important decision of your life outside of accepting Christ. It's who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Because the Bible says that if you find a bad person, it's like cancer to your bones. Think about that. That's what the Bible says about finding a bad spouse, cancer to your bones. And we all know bone cancer, forget about it. They talk about deadly, painful, long suffering. And that's why I tell young people, take pause, love Christ, don't worry. He knows the desires of your heart. Yeah. And it's better to end with the right person, being 35 years old, finding the right person, than
being 25,
25, divorced at 28, finding another person at 30, so on and so forth. Because that's not rare. I've seen it too many times.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Advice on leadership. What are some advice that you can give to someone who want to grow in their leadership? Maybe with some resource that has helped you. Maybe point out some people. Did you say, hey, listen, like follow these people? And obviously we know ultimately the Bible and the Word of God. But just apart from that, what are some things that's impacted your life? Who has impacted your life? What advice would you give to a young leader that's coming up and want to grow in leadership?
Yeah. Whew, man. You give me the questions,
that's
bro.
Like 10
Come on.
questions in one. That is like 2 podcasts.
That's 2 podcasts, but I'll try
3
to
minutes.
I'll try to make it short. I would say the best advice I could give about leadership is never stop being a learner.
Yeah.
And never stop being curious.
Yeah.
I want to put those 2 words together just because sometimes when we think learning, we think books, but I think it's more than that. I think it's curiosity.
It's good. It's good.
Like, good leaders are observative and ask questions like, why are things this way? Right? A book can't necessarily give you that intuition, but curiosity will draw you to your books.
It's good.
And it will draw you to good places. As a matter of fact, if you're going to this is why I like to promote higher education. I got my undergrad and I got my master's, and that's not a flex. It was really hard. Like, I'm not a school person.
I will flex that too, by the way. That is a flex. I don't care what he said. Like, that is...
To tell you guys, I was not great
That
in
is
school.
great. I'm being honest with you. That is awesome. Like,
Well, I appreciate that.
That is awesome. And I really honor that you did that.
Well, thanks, man. I'll say this. I learned from my father. My father got his master's. He's working to get his doctorate.
Yeah.
He set a very good precedent for me.
good.
But one thing that he taught me was this is to teach you how to learn.
It's good.
This is to teach you to search. And leadership is all about searching. Leadership's all about curiosity. It's about learning. You got to, that's the essence of leadership is you're in the front. And guess what? When you're in the front, sometimes there is not a path paved. There's brush you have to cut. There's things you have to pave, and no one has an answer. And so you have to have critical thinking. You have to be able to be a problem solver. But that all comes from a place of humility of saying, I don't know,
It's good.
so I need to learn. Or, I wonder if. That's the curiosity piece. And it keeps you going on that path. And so I think those 2 things together, learning and that curiosity, will sharpen your leadership. People that I love to learn from, I love to learn from dead people. Yeah.
Okay.
St. Augustine.
That was a curveball.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah. I see dead people. I learn from dead people. My professors are ghosts.
Holy.
But people like Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, people that have already finished their race.
Yeah.
The life of Billy Graham, for example.
Absolutely.
I think you should have a balance. Like,
Yeah.
I think there are great people in this era. You have your Craig Rochelle's, your John Maxwell's.
Yeah.
I think that it's healthy, especially for the next generation, to find people that their work has stood the test of time. Here's a person, G.K. Chesterton. G.K. Chesterton. Look up G.K. Chesterton.
I will.
Talking about all of the things. Here, he's the one that led C.S. Lewis to Christ.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, to think about C.S. Lewis, right? G.K. Chesterton was that dude. I want to say that his the book that converted C.S. Lewis was called The Eternal Man.
Okay.
And oh my goodness, G.K. Chesterton is amazing, an apologist. His work he's long since dead. His work for now, like if you read it for now, it will blow your mind. Wow. I think Carl Truman, he wrote a book called, The Triumph of the Modern Self. And he's a Christian, he's a believer, but he wrote about how we got to the place where the phrase, and this is all leadership talk because you're about to need to lead through culture.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the biggest leadership component right now is how are we leading people through culture in a digital age. And Carl Truman wrote this book, I think it's The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. I believe that's the title. And the opening page is, how did we get to the point in culture where the phrase, I am a man trapped in a woman's body, makes sense? Unpacking that. How 20 years ago that makes no sense. I mean, I don't think it makes sense now in a way, but you and I, it makes sense in we know what the zeitgeist is right now. And so it's people like that I think the next generation, we need to be leaning into to learn from leadership.
It's good.
Thought leadership.
It's good.
On what to, not just what to think, but how to think.
It's good.
Right? And so that would be my takes on leadership. Yeah.
Awesome. You've got a youth pastor that's watching. You've got a young guy's watching, or maybe just an older, youth pastor, and there's like, hey, look, I'm giving my life to the nation. Which, by the way, I like admire people who say, hey, listen, I was a youth pastor, and I'm not living the next generation.
Yeah.
I might not be the pastor, but I'm going to volunteer to support the pastor that's pastoring now. What advice would you give to both of those generations? One who's coming up and one who say, I'm here. This is what I'm called to do, is to serve the next generation.
I would say, and it kind of goes back to the beginning, the analogy of the tree is don't be discouraged when you don't see fruit.
It's good.
Focus on the roots.
It's good.
Focus on the roots. Like a 12, 13-year-old might not show a lot of fruit. The fruits of their lives might not be ripened. So water them.
Yeah.
Let their roots grow down deep. Because the truth is, and I said this to our youth the other night at our youth service. I said the way that God robs children of good parents is robbing the parents when they're 10 years old of their innocence. So I was looking in the eyes of 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and I'm like, you're not even thinking about marriage or kids yet, but the devil is.
Yeah.
And if the devil could rob you now of your innocence, if the devil could make you stumble now, then when you're 35 and you have a kid, he would have won 2 decades earlier.
Wow.
And so the youth pastor's the front line of that.
Wow.
It's like we want whole marriages. Well, it starts when they're young. It starts when they're innocent. It starts before they get their first marriage. It starts before they're exposed to certain substances. And maybe they already are, but you get to go toe-to-toe with all the addictions of their lives and be that guy that's in person. And so for anyone coming up or anyone serving in ministry right now, my call to you is to see the future. Not to look at the present and get discouraged that these kids are not getting it. No, plant the seeds, water the seeds, just water. It's God's job to bring the increase anyway.
Yeah.
It's his job.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love being in Next Gen Ministry, man. I love being in Next Gen Ministry because I get to be on the front lines of what culture is targeting. All of the ads, all of the social media is targeting young ones. But I get to be in the front lines. And, bro, that's me. I was a rugby player in university. And one of my favorite positions was the hook position. I don't know if you know rugby at all.
No, I mean, it is I guess, another version of soccer in a way.
It is another.
Would
it's
you compare?
Football. Without pads.
Okay, without pads. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I see a lot of even in Africa and South Africa. I see a lot of South Africans
the
playing.
Springboks.
So I'm like, okay, I guess so, but
a lot of hitting,
that's
a lot
what I
of
meant,
tackling.
football. Yeah.
It's 15 on 15.
Okay.
With like soccer type of rules in the sense of
correct.
There's no pauses.
Correct.
It's just
correct.
ongoing.
It's just ongoing.
It's ongoing.
I am a soccer. I mean, I played soccer all my life, so I don't know
come
anything.
on, man.
Do you play soccer?
Too. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm only
nice?
saying, I'm fine.
No, you took too long to answer.
I'm fine.
You took too long to answer.
Right.
Like
my wife is nice. My wife could have
really
played NCAA. Oh yeah.
I played semi-pro.
Okay,
I did.
on.
I played semi-pro. I played until I was 19. Dude,
Yeah.
I played in Los Angeles, and then we got a chance. Our team got a chance to actually meet LA Galaxy when David Beckham was there.
Stop it.
No kidding.
Ooh, you were gonna be on that documentary that just came out then.
I'm glad I missed it. But no,
Bro.
that's great advice, man. Great advice.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I was saying that was because I just like to be in the thick of it, just going at people.
In the
That was my
midst of it.
favorite.
Yeah.
That hook position's like in the middle, and I think that's anyone that's in the next generation.
For sure.
If you don't like getting in the mix, this is not for you.
It's not for you.
It's not for you. You're going to be at the front lines handling all the foolishness that you've been complaining about.
For sure.
That's your day in and day out. And
For sure.
But if you call to it, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll know, and God will give you the grace to push through.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell the district, man? We're a new family here at the podcast, and this is the second episode, man. Anything on your heart that you want to tell the district, man? What kind of good news do you have for them today?
The good news is that the work is already done. And we're not, as the cliche says, we don't pray for victory, we pray from victory.
That's good.
Like God has already called you, and nothing can revoke that call. And so, with fear and trembling, as Peter stepping out of the boat onto winds and waves, you too dare to step out and believe in the one word that Jesus gives to everyone: come.
Come on.
And that he'll give you the strength to stand on the impossible. And so that's my good news for you today.
Okay, so I want to close out the right way. Let's close out with some fun, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions.
Let's do it.
And you don't have to go to link to it to
Okay,
explain.
I'll just do quick.
Unless I feel like I need to, like,
You need
rebuild.
to, yeah, you need to rebuke me.
Bron or Jordan?
Jordan.
Why?
Why? Because he's the GOAT. He's the greatest.
Based on what?
Based on he finishes finals.
The
finals.
Okay, so is that
6-0.
is that concrete? Like that's what you're basing out of?
Yes.
Nothing
Yeah.
else, just championship.
Yeah. And he only played 15 years, so we took Braun's 15 years and we based it on Jordan's 15 years.
What? No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that because Jordan started early. But what I'm saying is this. Okay, if you only going based on finals, then there's some other people who have more finals than Jordan.
Yeah.
So you've got to give me a concrete,
a concrete answer.
Yeah, because that's not. I mean, if that's the case, then Jordan is not even in top 5.
Well, I would also say
okay, that's what I was.
That it's strength of conference. So he had to go through the Pistons and all these nasty teams with
Give
all
me
these
one
dirty
team
rules.
that was better than the Warriors.
One
Jordan
team that was better than the Warriors.
Yeah, that's 2016 Warriors, 2017 Warriors.
That was better than the 2016 Warriors.
Give me one team.
Is that pre-KD? Because he never beat KD.
No, pre-KD. Yeah, of course. Yeah, pre-KD.
Yeah.
The greatest. I mean, the team that won the most games in a season, the Warriors.
The Bulls. So they were the greatest team. 95, 96
No,
Bulls.
I'm talking about a team that Jordan played.
He played?
Bron played the best.
Yeah. No. I'll give you that he played the best. I would say this. I don't know if that version of that team beats the Detroit Pistons.
Oh my gosh.
Given the Pistons rules.
Oh my goodness.
If you got the bad boy Pistons to play that Golden State team, I don't give Curry a game. I think second quarter and Curry is in a hearse.
I don't think so.
You really
don't think so? I think Curly. He's because this is what you have to understand. I understand the physicality of things back then, but also there wasn't as talented as the player today.
Yeah, so but I don't know.
And I don't know who said Curry couldn't adapt to the rules back then. Who couldn't adapt to the physicality?
I will say though,
right?
Do you remember what they said about Jordan? Is that when Jordan faced the Pistons and he couldn't beat them, he literally had to take an offseason to gain 30 pounds in the weight room.
Just to be able.
He morphed his entire shot. Like, that's insane to put on that weight and still have your shot and your dunks. And so I'm saying, I don't think Curry has ever had to do something that extreme.
Because he didn't have to.
Exactly.
But if he had to, I'm sure he would have stepped up to the plate.
We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Well, and I don't know if anybody on the Pistons can really guard Curry from the logo.
Bro, but that's the thing. They're going to hurt him. And they try to hurt Jordan. That's why he had to gain 30 pounds.
At the end, here's my argument.
Okay,
here's my argument.
Go for it.
If I'm talking about the best player to ever play basketball, I'm looking for someone, if I give them the ball in their hands, who are going to do the best with the ball in their hands. And I believe it's Bron. Why? Because Bron, okay?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Bron is a better shooter than Jordan, except for the free throws. The numbers speak for itself. Bron is a better rebounder. Bron is a better point guard, right? Bron can play the 5. He can play the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1.
Yeah, he's like he's Magic Johnson.
Thank you. So Bron can do all this thing that Jordan couldn't do. The only thing that Jordan has on Bron is really rings.
And so does Magic Johnson.
Yeah, I feel like But Bron is a better version of Magic Johnson.
I feel like Bron is if Magic Johnson never had HIV and never had that thing. Let's keep it a buck. That's how he got out of the league. You know how many more years he had? That man would have won 7 championships, goodness. And then we were talking about
him. He would have been a GOAT then,
bro.
He would have been a GOAT,
bro. I mean, even MJ gives him the tip.
Give me top 5. Okay, give me top 5.
NBA?
Yes.
Okay. Well, obviously, 1 and 2, you already know.
Okay.
It's MJ and Bron right after him.
I respect anyone who gives me Bron number 2. I don't respect anyone who put Bron after 2?
I think the only way someone would argue that is which my number 3 is Kareem. Abdul Jabbar.
I was thinking you was gonna go with Magic.
No, it's Kareem.
Okay, all right,
It's Kareem. Then after that, I got to give the nod to Magic.
Okay,
I give him 4.
very interesting. Your 5.
Yeah, and then
This is gonna tell me everything that I need to know.
and then number 5. Should I go with my heart? Should I go with my heart right
This
here?
is gonna tell me everything that I need to know.
And then number 5, I'm going with the big fundamental Tim Duncan at number 5.
I think that's your heart.
Yeah, that's my
Because
heart.
you're a senator.
That's my heart.
Okay,
but
take away your heart.
I would have put Wilt Chamberlain.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I'll put Wilt Chamberlain.
If you would have won Kobe, then I wouldn't have respect you.
No, I think Kobe makes 10.
For sure. He makes
rounds
sense.
out the 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I got him at like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
makes
yeah.
10. I would have went with Shaq.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I would have went with Shaq.
Above Wilt?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have went with Shaq, and then I'm going Timmy. I got Timmy before Will.
Really?
Because I mean, I don't
That's
really know
interesting.
much. I mean, I'm just like, that's great. Like I hear their story, but I mean,
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know. I
Bird's
mean, just
got to be up there. Curry's got to. Dude, it's such
Curry.
a
I'm
long.
gonna be honest with you. I'm
You don't think Curry's top 10?
for sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to
I was
see.
about to
I'm trying to see if he's gonna make my top 5. I'm trying. Yes, he's
Yeah,
top 10.
no.
I got him in front of Kobe.
Oh, that's.
I got him in front of Kobe.
Bro, there's a body of work. You're right. I mean,
and some people are gonna
that's
hate
hard.
me for it.
That's
I mean,
tough.
but I'm got him in front of Kobe.
Bro, that's tough.
4. So
I don't. Yeah.
KD make your top 10.
No.
Okay, I got you. I'm with you. man.
15.
15
maybe?
for sure. Yeah,
15. Yeah.
15 for sure.
There's a lot of great people.
I
I mean,
know.
because you got to put Larry
Jesus.
Bird up there. There's a lot of people.
Okay, let's do this.
We didn't even say Bill Russell.
My
That man got
gosh.
11 rings.
He's the GOAT.
No.
To your argument.
No.
All right, give me do this. Let's go with NFL. Give me your top 5 NFL right quick.
Top 5 NFL players
Just in general. Just not a position. just in
throughout history.
general. Yeah.
Oh man, it's gonna be a lot of Cowboys. Okay.
Oh, you a Cowboy fan? Mm-hmm. Okay, cut this podcast. I'm gonna give you mine, and
Go for it.
you might.
Yeah.
Number 1, of course, right now, 2024.
Okay.
I'm going Tom
Okay.
first.
All right.
Okay. I'm about to surprise you. I'm going Deion Sanders.
That's not a surprise. You actually, me and you have the same
Okay.
top 2.
Right now, bro, I'm going Patrick.
That
3.
actually is top 3. We have the same top 3.
I'm going Patrick. And then I'm going after that Montana.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And then at 5, man,
You and me might have.
Okay.
I want to see what your 5th one is.
man, the name is running out. Raw receiver.
Randy Moss.
No, not Randy. Not Jerry. Well, no,
Jerry
no,
Rice.
no. I'm going Jerry
Jesus.
Rice. I'm going
Yeah,
Jerry
that's
Rice 5.
right.
I'm going Jerry.
Oh yeah,
I'm going Jerry. That's 5.
dude, that is a
Yeah, solid.
That's a solid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like. Yeah, I mean, some people try to make the Randy Moss, and then that's a. I mean, he's a beast too, dude.
He is.
And
but
I
the
want
numbers,
to put.
the
I
numbers
want to
just,
put on the running back side. I want to put Emmitt Smith.
Oh,
What about
him
top
up.
5 soccer?
Ooh, is number 1 Messi?
Okay, good. Okay.
The freaking GOAT.
You got me.
The GOAT.
Don't scare me like that,
The
bro.
GOAT.
You picked Braun earlier. I didn't know if you
No.
wanted to pick the Braun of
No,
soccer.
no, we're not going with Cristiano right now. I'm going Messi. I'm going. Come on. I'm going with his dad. Come on,
Maradona.
Maradona number 2. That's just me.
Yeah.
I'm going Pele.
Pele, that would have to be top 3.
Now I'm going. Let me see. So Maradona, Pele. Man, let me. Kaká, man.
Dude, shout out Kaká, man.
Yeah, I'm going to Kaká, and then
Pero
number,
no de Kaká.
number 5. I'm gonna give him some love. I'm going Cristiano.
I think that's fair to give him 5.
I'm giving 5. That's I'm going 5. He's not. I mean, he's and then, but also to be honest with you, that is based on, because I don't want to be biased. If I had to be biased, dude, I'm going with like the original Ronaldo, and I'm going with like,
Ooh,
and I'm going
Ronaldinho
and I'm going
too.
Ronaldinho. That's what I was going to say.
Oh my God,
and I'm
the
going
original Ronaldo.
Yes.
Dude.
So,
oh
I
my
mean,
God,
you've
that
got-
Brazilian
bro,
team was insane.
Killers, bro.
That was an insane
Killers.
Brazilian team.
So, yeah.
Bro, in Barcelona in that
my
era
gosh.
too. Golly.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So, no, man, I mean, soccer is my thing. So, I love watching soccer. We got to play some soccer, bro.
We do, man. I tried to do that at our church, and not many people are buying.
No,
out.
not in my church. I think I'm the only one.
Bro. Here, I'm like, does anyone play soccer here? And they're like, no. I'm like, awesome.
We play football.
You play football, man.
Awesome. Dude, it was so great having you, man. I had
Thanks,
a ton of fun. Hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah,
So,
we'll
dude,
do
thank
it.
you for coming.
No, thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.